And we are live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans. How cool is that? I happen to think it's very, very cool. So, what else I want to tell you guys? Happy first Friday of September. That's very, very cool. Welcome to all of those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave parapeeps on this side of the veil. Welcome. This is Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry. I'm your host, Father Shawn Whittington. I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother with the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I'm a team member of Society of St. Benedict. That's the Exorcist team that helps the paranormal community. Very, very cool. Check them out. And I'm also co-founder with my wife of ghostbegone.biz. And yes, I'm that guy on Eli Roth Presents the Legion of Exorcists on Travel Channel, which is currently streaming everywhere if you haven't seen it yet. Having said that, I still have people discovering that show everywhere. You name it, and it's on that streaming service. A few months back, it also premiered on Travel Channel Asia, did great. Recently, it premiered on Really TV in the UK, did great. So it hasn't been canceled. For everybody that keeps asking me when season 2, it hasn't been canceled, but it hasn't been officially greenlit yet for a season 2. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping so. If you're really that much in love with the show, God bless you. But you can always go to Travel Channel website, and there's a place where you can put in comments and let them know about a show that you loved and would love to see it come back or continue on with more seasons and so forth. And trust me, I talk to people on that network that they watch that stuff, they read that stuff. So there you go. Having said that, if there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. If you go there to visit, there's a lot of cool things to see there. Both my books are there, God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. And if you purchase the books off of the website, they leave my office here. I autograph them and I enclose them in a beautiful house blessing kit and I ship them personally to you. Um, what I love about that stuff, buying the books off my website, is part of the proceeds of every sale of every copy of my books goes to support stjude.org and the ASPCA. So that's a beautiful thing. You can also get the books a little less expensive at Amazon, and they're also available in audio now, which is very cool. And so there you go with the books. What else do I want to tell you about my website? My course is there, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. If you're interested in enrolling in that course, we're getting ready to start pushing for the fall class. So if you're interested in that, check that out. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, reach out to me, send me a message, and we can talk about it. There's also a place on the website where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues, not paranormal, but spiritual, which is also very important. But most importantly, brothers and sisters, remember that my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with especially with their paranormal issues. So I know times are tough, trust me. But if you notice the donate button and you're able to do so, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. Okay, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This is going to make some of you sad. It made me sad, but my paranormal partner in crime today couldn't make it. Annette Munich, my co-host, she had an unexpected, last-minute family medical emergency come up, and she looks not her, but someone in her family. But she's going to be spending the weekend with them in the hospital, making sure that everything turns out okay in that situation. So please keep Annette and her family in your prayers tonight. And we have a great guest. I know that's why you all tuned in. So I can't wait to bring him on. I'm going to check the prayer urn real quick, and I'm going to save the mailbag when I have my guest on later, because usually these questions are in their wheelhouse, and I like to bounce them off them. But I'll check the prayer urn first real quick here. We got Peggy L. from Colorado. Hi, Peggy. I'm a Catholic mother. Religious persecution has reared its ugly head here in Colorado and at my children's school. Oh, Peggy, I'm so sorry to hear that. They are targeting Catholic kids just as they are targeting Jewish kids. My children are scared to go to school. Please pray this becomes a peaceful time for them at school. Um, that's a tearjerker there. And I get that type of message from people all the time, Peggy. So hang in there, and I most definitely will offer up a prayer for you. Let me pick a good one here for you. And Peggy, after the show, I'll go into my candle room here at my home. I'll light a candle for you and your children, and that candle will burn until it's done burning. So I will do that for you also. Uh, let's pray for God's protection and Christ's presence. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. As I arise today, may the strength of God pilot me, the power of God uphold me, the wisdom of God guide me. May the eye of God look before me, the ear of God to hear me, the word of God speak for me. May the hand of God protect me, the way of God lie before me, the shield of God defend me, the host of God save me. May Christ shield me today, Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit, Christ when I stand, Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in every eye that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And that's from an old friend, St. Patrick. It's a beautiful prayer. Peggy, I will keep you and your family in my prayers tonight. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in the deep end here with my floaties off and get right to putting this guy's feet to the fire. All of you that know him love him. I love him. I respect him. He's a cool guy, and boy, the things I could tell you about him, which I won't do now. I kid. Um, he is the Archbishop of the United States Old Catholic Church. He is also the head of the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary, and I don't know what else to say about the guy. Well-known TV, radio, film personality, exorcist, just a really cool dude, and he's my bishop, so I have to somewhat be on my best behavior today. Brothers and sisters, without further ado, please give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only Bishop James Long. Howdy.
You're still in timeout. That's it. That's it. You're still in timeout. Man, I was having a hard time getting through someone's URL that they sent their
Oh,
bishop
really?
was it just yeah. So how you like that timeout section there, Father Shawn?
You know, it's there's an old saying, and this basically you hear this from prisoners in prison. You know, don't let the time do you. You do the time. So
Right.
I do the time. It's funny. It's like you recently reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in assuming the abbot position of the Benedictine community that we both are part of, and it's you don't like to admit to this stuff, but I think you're more cyclically gifted than you would ever let on. And I'll tell you why, because just the kind of things you say and the kind of things you do, especially when it concerns me, and I don't even know if I've told you this, but they're usually spot on and they usually lead to exactly what is meant to happen. Um, I know we don't live in a monastery. I think if we had a monastery, we'd be there in a
Yeah.
heartbeat. But we don't have a monastery. But it's kind of like ever since uh, you talked to me about, and this I think it's this. No, you started working on me about the Benedictines the very first time, our very first retreat in Indiana when Reverend Mother was getting married. You and I had some time, 45-minute drive from the hotel room to the church and back, several days in a row there. And you had time to talk to me about the Benedictines. So by the time we left there, it was a no-brainer. You gifted me your original um, habit, Benedictine
Hmm.
habit, which, you know, how could I say no to all that? But here's the thing, it just seemed to be part of what I was already doing. You know, I don't go anywhere. Like I went to the doctor yesterday, whoop de doo, because I had an appointment, not because I needed to. It was like a wellness checkup. Me and Sharon went together. But if I don't have a doctor appointment, or I'm working a case, or I need to go visit with somebody and just pray with them, I'm here, man. You know, praying, following the liturgy of the hours, um, talking to people about their spiritual, paranormal, and sometimes even worse issues, either live like this, just them and I, or text messages or whatever. Um, and it's like, other than this not being a monastery, I live a very monastic lifestyle. So it was a no brainer to do that. And I know you didn't expect me to ask you this question, but, and it's not me, and maybe it is me. People know my story, 20, 30 years of being a raging alcoholic, drug addict, um, never lost my faith, never left the faith, baptized Catholic. Um, but I tell my story about one day, just, God knows when you're absolutely, absolutely at your rock bottom and you're ready to surrender to Him and have Him take your life over. So that time came, and I didn't have to go through anything other than just asking Him, say, I'm ready. Stop this nonsense with me in my life. I woke up the next day, and it's been years and years and years since I've had a drink or um, did any drugs. And people say, well, don't you say Mass every day and don't you drink the wine? And they always give me the weird look because they're not Catholic. They don't know. God bless them. I'm working on them. But they go, I say, well, no, after I change it to the body of the blood of Christ, it's not wine anymore. And it doesn't even taste like wine to me when I drink it. So um, people ask me all the time, tell me a little bit about this USOCC and this Benedictine community and the Society of St. Ben. Tell me a little bit about that. And I can see the twinkle in their eye. They're saying, if this guy can totally buy into all of this, maybe there's something there. So this was an easy interview to set up for, and I'll stop rambling on here and let you talk. This is an easy interview to set up for because as soon as I started promoting you being on the show, I started getting all your fans and followers sending me in questions. So that's all I got in front of me is all these topics that they sent in, which all go down the list. But I think it's important that people know that uh, we're priests first,
That's right.
and then everything else falls in. And I'm just enjoying being a priest right now before I jump in the deep end without the floaties on again and some of your really in-depth exorcism training and get back into that because I'm just I'm just inundated with people needing help with those issues, and that's what God intended me intended for me to do anyhow. But I told God, let me just enjoy being a priest for a little bit. He said, okay. So that's what I'm doing. But I know I'm getting ready to do some different things. But I want you to tell everybody, talk about the talk first of all, talk about your journey up to this interview, the Bishop James Long journey, the priest James Long journey, the Archbishop James Long journey. Talk about the USOCC, the Benedictines, and all that, because I know there's people out there that are on the fence and about to jump in and take that journey, get baptized, enter the seminary, maybe enter the Benedictine community. Talk to everybody about that.
Well, I tell people I knew I wanted to be a priest when I was 5. That never stopped. So I began reading books on demonology at 9. But my love for the priesthood really developed strongly from my mom, my parents, really. I mean, they were Catholic, and I grew up, I was a altar boy. And so that was I loved it. I absolutely loved, serving at Mass. That was something that I don't know. I was drawn so much to. And so, through the years, I would continue being an altar boy for the church. And then I decided I really wanted to go to the seminary, but I thought, you know what? I don't want to be a 20-year-old priest, a 21-year-old priest with no life experience. I want to learn what it's like to worry about paying a bill, what it's like to worry about budgeting. So I said, I'm going to take some time off before I go into the seminary. And I did. And it was wonderful. I had a great time. I lived, I worked at Continental Airlines, which, boy, that was wonderful because back in the day we were cross-utilized. So we were working on the ramp, on the counter, on the gate. But I mean, I could fly anywhere in the United States for $20 round trip. And matter of fact, you'll like this story. I decided, you know what? I have 2 weeks vacation. I'm just gonna go to Las Vegas. So I flew to New York because I have not been to New York. So I thought, well, let's go to New York. $20. That's what it costs. And then I was at New York. And so it was nonstop from New York City to Las Vegas. I thought, why not? Let's just go. So I said, I'm just going to get a ticket. So I did. And they bumped me up first class on a 757 from New York to Las. That was sweet. I was like, all right. And then I got off the plane and I was like, I just kept hearing ching, 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 ching. It's like, what in the world is this? I mean, it was going everywhere. I thought, this is not normal. It's an airport. And there were slot machines everywhere. Everywhere. I was so alien to me. But anyway, I enjoyed that time. And then I decided it's time to go into the seminary. So I studied with the Benedictines, and then they closed their college due to financial issues. And then I studied with the Jesuits at Loyola University in Chicago. So I received my undergraduate degree. And then I decided to continue on graduate school for the seminary, for the major seminary, and studied there for 2 years, received my minor orders, and was about a year and a half or so, less than a year and a half to being ordained a deacon. But God was just calling me. I was troubled by several of the theological issues and the differences from my own conscience and what the church teaches. And as I got into graduate school, I thought, well, I don't know about this part. I don't know about that. And so I just had this, I was in prayer, and it's like, Old Catholic Church. What in the world is an Old Catholic Church? I had no idea what it even was. And I spoke to my spiritual advisor, who was a priest, a Roman Catholic priest, and I talked to him about it. And he said, you should consider the Old Catholic Church. And so I started looking into it, and then I was ordained to the diaconate and to the priest, of course, to the priesthood, and consecrated to the episcopacy. And many, many years ago, I started the USOCC because I there were a lot of groups back in the day. 20 years ago, there were very few jurisdictions, Old Catholic jurisdictions, very, very few. I mean, it was not many at all. And so, but they were not in alignment with my own theological beliefs. I mean, there were some issues that I thought, well, I just don't necessarily, I'm not gonna cop out and teach this and teach that. So we started the United States Old Catholic Church. And then but I also love the Benedictines. So I started the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary, because I'm deeply in love with my Benedictine spirituality. So that's really how it all started.
How did how did you get into the Benedictines? Because you'd already known about the Jesuits, and
Mhm.
I'm sure you, in your travels, you had met many other
Yeah.
uh, people that had different walks of spiritual life. How did that? What really was that lightning bolt about the Benedictines that just
Uh,
sunk in?
Really simple. Actually, I lived about 45 minutes away from St. Meinrad and St. Meinrad Arch Abbey in St. Meinrad, Indiana. And I've been there a couple times prior to me going into the seminary, and I just fell deeply in love with the monks. There's not much there. Now it is. Now it really has. It's amazing how much it's grown. But I mean, when I was in the Benedictine, when I was in the seminary, uh, there was nothing around that place. I mean, you have to drive about 30 minutes to get to Walmart.
Yeah,
So that was it. And then if you were in the seminary, you were like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go to the wall. I'm going to Walmart." I mean, people are like, "Yeah, let's go." I mean, that was a big thing. I mean, that was a big time. Let's. That's a party moment. So here I am with a whole car full of seminarians because they're going to Walmart, and I'm thinking, dude, this is so sad. I mean, because there was nothing there. I mean, there was just nothing in that little town. But I love the simplicity, and I fell deeply in love with the liturgy of the hours, and especially night prayer. Morning prayer was a little rough sometimes because I still had migraines, but it wasn't. It's progressed. But night prayer was just no matter what kind of stress I was under, and it was tough. Seminary was not easy. It was it. You guys think you have it tough? Give me a break.
I can imagine it, and I know that the seminary that I went through wasn't easy. I mean, I went in at 60, and I'm
Right.
not a good student,
But you did
and
it.
so
But you did it. You did it.
well, I'm going to give glory to God there because I'm telling you, I did the same thing. He's probably so tired of me asking him for favors all the time. I said, "There's no way I'm going to do this without your help." You, first of all, we'll get into talking
Yeah.
about the show a little bit
Yeah.
and how you and I hooked up and how this all happened. But I just asked him. I said, "There's no way." I said, "You want me to do this? There's no way I'm going to do this. Be able to do this without your help." So,
But I
buck.
believed in you. When I met you on the trail, I believed you could do it. And I told you, I even told you. And see, I think it's interesting how you think that you couldn't do it. I used to teach prior to me going into, well, actually, when I left the seminary, I used to be a teacher of a special education. So I used to teach kids with special needs and even adults. So behavior and learning disabilities. And I think it's really fascinating how you doubted your own ability to go to the seminary, and yet somehow we connected. You connected with a bishop who actually worked with people who had not to say you had learning disabilities, but with my training in special education, one thing that I have learned, especially with the education system, it fails miserably because it doesn't implement different teaching methodologies. And when you don't, if you don't do this, then you're going to lose 90% of your people because most of the people are visual learners. You see it, you have to touch it, you have to feel it. You can learn from that. Many people can't learn just from a lecture style. You just simply can't. I mean, some people love it. Some people love just a lecture style, but you have to implement multiple methodologies. It's one of the reasons why I wanted you guys to do Bible study with me or night prayer with me, because it's so important to actually feel a part of it. And when you're engaged, then it just makes it even that much more meaningful, I think. So, but I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting how our paths united. But I saw as soon as I met you, as soon as I met you, I thought, you know what, this guy's going to be a Benedictine and he's going to be a priest. Seriously.
I well, we're gonna touch base on that here in a little
Yep.
bit, but everybody wants to know what makes the old Catholics different from the Roman Catholics.
Well, technically, there was a big church. There was a big split in 1122 with the Eastern and the Roman Catholic Church for a variety of reasons. But really, in 1890, over papal infallibility, the Church in New Jersey was given complete autonomy by Pope Leo XIII, and which means they could consecrate bishops. Well, Rome was having some financial issues, and the Church in Utrecht was giving autonomy, and also they became very wealthy, and so they developed their own property and money, and so Rome came in and said, "Well, now we want your property, and we want your money," and Utrecht said, "No, we have autonomy. You can't just come in and say, well, now we want your property when." You've not given us anything to start this. We can't just give you everything because it belongs to the community. And Rome called them heretics. So, well, if you don't do it, you're heretics. And then the Pope declared himself infallible. So there are just things that I could not, in good faith, I just could not be. So, and then it progressed from there. Now, with the old Catholic Church, there are many different jurisdictions. There are some ultra conservative, there are some ultra liberal, there are some moderate, and so I think, I think we're in the more of a moderate, I think, perspective, which I think is helpful because extreme conservative leaves out so many people. Extreme liberal leaves out people. So, but certainly my life financially would have been a heck of a lot easier if I had just continued on the Roman Catholic priesthood path. But I also would have been a hypocrite, because when you're ordained to the Roman Catholic priesthood, you're $50,000 salary and everything is paid for. Everything. You do pay for no bills. So everything's taken care of. So we don't get paid as clergy. So we fund our own ministry. And so, yeah, if I had stayed in the Roman Catholic priesthood, certainly life would have been financially much easier, but I would have been a hypocrite because I believe in women ordination. I believe priests should be ordained. I reject papal infallibility. So, and by the way, people say, well, the old Catholic Church is not valid. Well, Dominus Jesus, that's written by actually Pope Benedict and Pope Francis, Pope Benedict and Saint John Paul wrote Dominus Jesus that says that any church that has apostolic succession is considered validly Catholic. And so I have a 110-page document that shows my apostolic succession to Peter. So I'm very familiar with apostolic succession. I studied it, especially in the Roman Catholic, the Catechism, the seminary. So I'm very, very familiar with it.
That's a very, I'm honored to have that too. And I talk to many people that walk around wearing this collar who are clergy, and I love them and respect them, that don't have that. And when you explain that to them, they're like, their eyes get real big, like, wow, I'd love
You're
to be
also a member of the Order of Corporate Reunion as well. So, which again is a very ancient organization that validates a person's apostolic succession. And so this is something that's pretty important. And not everybody's a member of this because they look at your apostolic succession from your bishop and they validate it and say, nope, it's invalid. It's not valid. You have no apostolic succession. Or in fact, they say, yep, you have apostolic succession. So OCR is absolutely, truly important, especially when you're talking about Catholicism. And we are all of us are members of the OCR.
Well, I like to tell people all the time, we have nothing against the Pope. We love and respect the Pope.
Absolutely.
It's just that we consider God the head of our church, and they consider the Pope the head of their church. That's I know that's very simplistic,
right.
Putting it, but basically that's it. But
and women ordination, women ordination is a big thing. So,
and priests being married,
and priests should be married. I mean, that's just it's preposterous. Priests used to be married. The Pope used to be married. So the idea that priests can't be married, it all came about for financial reasons. Because when a priest would pass away and he was married and their widow was left with nothing, she had no rights. So then she tried to say, well, the church need to takes care of me because I can't work. What am I supposed to do? So the church, we just fix this problem, celibacy. So, I mean, the priest and the Pope was married before.
Well, I tell people all the time, God is talking to you all the time, but you got to learn to listen. Yeah. And even I am still guilty of sometimes not listening to him, putting myself in a position where I'm not receiving. And it's like when you asked me if I would accept the abbot position. I said, let me pray on it and sleep on it. And the following morning, I'm watching EWTN, and a show came on that I love, but I hardly ever, for some reason, it's not on a regular basis, and it just kind of randomly pops up. But after that morning mass, the show Doctors of the Church was coming on. And I said, I haven't seen one of these episodes in a while. Let me watch it. Well, that episode happened to be about St. Leo the Great. And that was the name of the Catholic school I went to back in New Jersey growing up. I knew right then that was when I reached over and sent you the text I accept, because that was, that was the answer. So I tell people, when you and I first met, I don't even know how I got the show. It basically, God laid it in my lap. Sure, somebody reached out to Joni Mahan, a paranormal author, asked her if she knew any people that were in the exorcism field that they should talk to. She said, well, the only person I can think of is Shawn Whittington. So they reached out to me. I thought it was a joke. But there's God laying that in my lap. It wasn't until after the end of the second week of filming in LA that you came into our trailer. And my mother had been bugging me all my life to be a priest. She was Brazilian. And when you came in there and said you have a pure heart, think you'd make a great priest. If you're interested in the seminary, look into the old Catholic Church. I've already told you the story. When you were saying that, I literally saw my mother's face on your face and heard her voice coming through your mouth. I don't think I've ever asked you if you felt anything um, during that moment. And I told you later on what had happened. But since then, I just tell people all the time, God's talking to you all the time. You got to be able to listen. So people want to know how that show came your way, and then let's talk about some of the paranormal
Mm-hmm.
issues we experienced during that filming. Because I know you flew over with a a haunted object,
Right.
and you had issues on your plane flight. I know I had some. Um, Basically, I was flipped on my face in the shower um, before even day one of filming. I felt a lot of interesting powers in that church that we were filming in.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about how that show came to you and some of the paranormal things you experienced around filming Legion of Exorcists.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the producers. I think had contacted me, and I thought, oh, what, because I'm just, and be honest with you, because at that time, I didn't have time. I just did not have time, nor did I want to dedicate time to a show. I just didn't. And so they were talking to me, and I love what really intrigued me was it was so unique and different. If it had been okay, we want you to go to investigate a place, and we're gonna have a camera, I would have said no. No, I've already done it. I'm not interested. No, no, no. I've already done. I'm not. What purpose would it serve? The only thing it'd serve is my ego. So there's no reason to do it. But it was so unique and so different. I thought, man, this is exactly what we need in the paranormal community, is a group of clergy. Now, my fear, and I made it very clear to them, is I take my calling in really, really seriously. And so I just did not want to be mixed up with individuals who are playing exorcists, because I voiced that multiple times. If you're gonna, I'm not gonna share a stage with somebody who's playing an exorcist. I'm just not. I refuse. Only because I spent all these years to build up integrity and honesty and credibility in the field, just to have it thrown out the window because some John Doe over here wants to be exorcist for the weekend. So that was something very important to me. And so there were some people that I didn't know. I had no idea who they were, and so we met the cast, and everybody seemed to have, I think, a deep love for Christ. So that was nice. That was nice to see. But that's really how it really started. Is that I started talking to them, and they started giving me a little bit more information. I was like, okay, let's see what this is about.
I remember one day I looked over and I saw this creepy little doll sitting
Yeah,
in one of the pews, sitting in a pew like a person watching us film the show. And I asked what was up with that. And then I found out that was a doll that you flew over with because you were going to
I
do
did.
some filming with the doll after the Legion on a completely different project. And now everybody's so familiar with that doll. And plus, one of the episodes that was about you featured that doll.
Mhm.
Talk about that experience flying over
Yeah.
and the issues with the plane flight.
Well, see, yeah, because I was very hesitant, really hesitant, and I was like, I don't know about this one. But I talked to him. I said, okay, I'll bring it. So I brought the doll over, and I had wrapped it in several cloths and several other items, and I blessed, and I had some relics there. So I did everything that I could to try to keep it as safe as possible, and everybody else. Well, we were getting ready to take off, and then the pilot came on and said, "Folks, I'm sorry, but a light bulb had popped, and so we have to get the maintenance." I thought, "Oh dear God, please don't." That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, no, 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 no. So then they came in, they fixed it, and said, "Okay, everything is fine, and we're ready to go, and we're getting ready to taxi back." Oh, folks, we're having the same problem with this thing. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So it's like about 3 or 4 times. And the guy said, "Look, I've been flying for 40 years. I can't explain this. This has never happened before. This is he didn't use the word anomaly, but that's basically what it was. He said, I can't explain why it continues to pop. If it does it one more time, then we're going to have to cancel the flight because there was some technical issue. And I thought, is this the time to get off the craft now? It's got to take this sucker. So I got up and blessed it one more time, placed several other items, and so everything was fine. Everything was good. So I was able to take this thing over. But the story behind it is no joke. I mean, this thing is there are two things. So first of all, when I first got it, a family a mom had become obsessed with it, this doll in an antique shop, and she bought it home. And within 2 weeks, she had some violent activity occurring in her home. And within 2 weeks, her entire house, it was a McMansion, a 3-story, big, beautiful home, Tennessee, completely burnt down to a crisp. There was nothing left. I'm not even a staircase. There was nothing. And so what was odd is they had found out about who I was and they contacted me. And I thought, well, why is the firefighter calling me? I'm not a firefighter. What am I supposed to do about it? But he said, you need to just show up. So I showed up. And so I came to this big, huge lot where you can clearly see the outline of this house. And the female was there. The wife was there. And she said, let me show you how the house looked. I said, well, yeah. And they had the doll sitting exactly where it was in the house. They had not moved it. So I thought that's kind of why are they having a weird ornate bookshelf there with this doll? That's kind of strange. So I walked in. She said, this is where the official, formal, atrium is. And then you look to your right and that's the formal living room. So I looked and there's this, where you could see where everything was lined out. And she said, and that doll needs to go. So what happened? So the doll is porcelain. The entire house burnt to a total crisp. There was nothing left in that home. And the only thing that was standing is that ornate shelf that had been severe burnt marks, and the doll had burnt marks on the clothing. The doll is porcelain. The firefighter that was there, even the chief came out. They didn't understand how a porcelain doll could stay intact because it was like someone had poured gasoline in that entire home for it to burn to that heat, to that level, so that everything was crumbled. Everything crumbled. There was nothing left. So what I went to Louisville Mid-South Paranormal Conference and I took that doll and I had been saving up for a new laptop. And I was very excited about using it for my presentation. So I had it in this case and they kept a whole room of people when the room said, can you take it out? So I took the doll out. And I was going to present it to people because they were saying, some people say they were psychic medium. They went to fill it. And so as soon as I brought it out, you could feel the entire room change. And everybody's like, nope, put it back in. Put it back in. No one wanted even in it. So I was putting it back I was getting ready to put it back into the box. Someone asked me about a question or something, and I didn't put it inside its container. I put it next to my laptop. So as I turned around to address the question, a firefighter was in the front row screaming, Bishop Long, your laptop is on fire. So I turned around. This was seen by an entire room full of people. And they saw this laptop that I just purchased on fire. Now that infuriated me because it was a brand new laptop, but how do you explain that to Best Buy? Yeah. That's not a part of the return policy. So yeah, that was terrible. But I had always heard about haunted items. I've collected haunted items through the years, but I've never had that type of an extreme reaction to an item before. And so when I still couldn't believe it. Even to this day, I still can't believe that the laptop was on fire. You actually saw the flames and the smoke coming from the laptop.
So obviously, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you believe there's something there when it comes to cursed and haunted objects.
No question. No question.
Now, I get that all the time too. And I tell people just to be very, very careful. I've got plenty of those here in the house that have been either gifted to me. I don't want it anymore. Will you just take it? What would be your best advice to people if they want to avoid having any issues with a haunted or cursed object? What would be your advice before they get into that type of situation to avoid that? And if they find themselves in that situation, what should they do?
Well, first of all, I'd say leave them alone. Don't collect them. Don't mess with them. Don't touch them. Just walk away from them. Have nothing to do with it. I mean, truly, there's nothing good that comes with these things. There's nothing good. I have a storage facility full of items that people have purchased through the years and it's caused nothing but chaos. John Wayne Gacy paintings,
Oh
original
yeah.
paintings, Dahmer, an actual pair of Dahmer glasses, an actual patch from the people who took their lives. I forgot Heaven's
Oh,
Gate, the Heaven's Gate people, and the actual patch. I have an actual patch that someone purchased from a buyer. These are people are purchasing these things and then they're bringing them home. And not only that, but now, did you know that there is the Holy Spirit Ouija board?
you see, this is what I mean. You're psychically connected with me because I was just getting ready to ask you about that because it all falls under the um, people say, well, can these haunted objects create some type of portal where you get an attachment?
100%.
That's a
See,
perfect example. The Jesus Spirit board.
here's the deal. Portals are nothing magical. Portals are you use an object to communicate with the spirit. You don't know who you're communicating with, and you've opened the portal. This item now is desecrated. This is a desecrated item. Even though the intended purpose for this pen is to write, not to communicate with the deceased. But you use this item to communicate with the deceased. This now is desecrated. And the problem, because that's opening a portal, you're using this object to communicate with the spirit world whom you don't know who you're communicating with. And then that's the danger. And I tell paranormal investigators this all the time. It's like, look, you need to understand when you're investigating, there are dangers that come with doing this. And so you have to understand that, and you got to be prepared for the consequences. So, and people don't like when I say that, but look, my first time I've ever investigated was 35 years ago. I'm in my 50s. So 35 years ago, I investigated Waverly Hills. So I've been in the paranormal community for a long, long time. And I love the paranormal community. And I've had a lot of great teams that I really admire in the paranormal community. But I am also going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. So when you're out in your paranormal investigating, you have to understand there's consequences for doing so. And the consequences could be you could be communicating with something whom you don't want to communicate with.
Absolutely.
That's the
I
dangers. You know?
I'm gonna get hate mail for this, but it is what it is. You know, many of these situations is uh, livelihood for some people. Like there's a lot of these legitimately haunted locations where these people own them and they
Yeah.
charge for tours and stuff and allow teams
Yeah.
to come in there and investigate. You know, if you show up and they even suspect you might be one of those kind of people that are going to try and cross spirits over and get rid of the ghosts, they won't let you in
That's right.
because that's that's not what they're all about. So that's kind of sad that some of that occurs in our field. But it is what it is. You know, I've told people, I've gone on record many times and say, well, there was a time where I used Ouija boards, but I think one of the worst cases of attachments that my wife and I experienced, which resulted in something taking up residence here in the house for about 8 weeks and really went after my wife. I truly believe started from the use of a Ouija board in a case that we were working because we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So, but you know, there's these innocent people that mean like a gentleman from India many years ago called me up. His wife collected antiques and she happened to be into lamps. And she bought this really weird antique lamp. And he said while she was cleaning it, he could totally see something come over her and her change. And he referred to the spirit as a jinn.
Mm.
But you can start like you said, you can start off with good intention. I collect antiques, but even then you have to be careful.
You do. You have to, especially, and I always tell people, especially if you get obsessed with it. So, like for example, the mom in this case with the doll, she became obsessed, and it was almost she completely tuned out her husband. Her husband was saying she couldn't even hear. She was so zoned in, and There was nothing. There was nothing other than that doll. Everything was completely tuned out, and it became such a deep obsession. And what really drew what I think drew that uh, demonic attachment situation to her is, but she did things, in her younger years that she should not have done, that opened herself up to, unfortunately, the demonic receiving that invitation. But you got to understand, see, that's what people don't understand. You can play with the Ouija board when you're, 14, 15, 16 years old, and you've opened yourself up and nothing may happen. But then 30 years from now, something does. And you're going, how in the world? Why? Well, because when you were 14, 15 years old, you play with the Ouija board, and now the demons will wait. They're opportunists. They're not going to attack you when you're strong. They're not going to attack you when you're ready. They're not going to attack you. They will attack you at the most opportune time, when you are exhausted, when you are tired, or when you're frustrated, or whatever might be going on in your life that seems to be a little chaotic. And that's when they start to show up. So yeah, but don't forget it, because you're at that time you're vulnerable, whether it be physically or emotionally. And this is why they start attacking on a physical level, where that's what we call oppression, or they start attacking on an intellectual level, where they call it obsession, demonic obsession. So this is what they do. And they are opportunists. They can wait 30 years. 30 years to them is a blink of an eye, because they exist outside of time and space.
I know you've experienced this. I experience it all the time, and it's really heartbreaking. Um, like recently got a message from a woman who's they're taking care of she's taking helping her husband take care of his elderly mother. He's also got a sister who's been clinically diagnosed with a severe mental illness, and she's under the care of a physician and on some medications, but she's in and out of being out of control. Her case is very bad, but the family doesn't believe in anything demonic, or they're not those type of people. But this is a woman who's been baptized Catholic all her life, and she's very familiar with, um, you know, the demonic presence and things of that nature. And she truly believes not only is this person, um, her sister-in-law, is possessed, in addition to being um, clinically diagnosed with a mental illness.
Hmm.
So, do you believe that can happen? They can be, and now she can't. The family doesn't want to buy into it and get any help, because they think the lady's crazy. Oh, she's not. She says she's got mental illness. She's not possessed.
Hmm.
But do you think they can be both? And if they can, do you have an opinion on this term they're throwing around now called complete integration, where the person is uh, allowed to be possessed for so long without being delivered that eventually that vessel completely gets taken over by the demonic, and now you have a living, breathing, walking around like you and I demon.
Well, no, yes and no. First of all, can a person who's mentally ill be possessed? Certainly. However, a lot of people think that just because you have the manifestations of what appear, or what seem to appear to be possession, doesn't necessarily make it so. So if you're going to have possession, you're automatically going to have infestation. So that's going to happen regardless. So if it does not happen, then you're not dealing with possession. So when a person is possessed, it automatically implies demonic infestation. You cannot have possession without infestation. It simply doesn't exist. It's like saying I'm pregnant without having relations. So, I mean, it's kind of difficult to do. So when you're possessed, you're going to have demonic infestations. So those manifestations will be a variety. So religious objects are desecrated, bangings of threes, smelling of sulfur, etc. So if those things are not occurring, then you have no outward manifestations of infestation. Then you have to look at, is this person truly dealing with possession or not? I would say no, because one of the requirements that I always look for in possession is there has to be some form of outward manifestation, always. And there always is. And whether it could, and that could have been a week or 2 or 3 weeks of primary before this person became possessed, et cetera. So you're going to have those activity. Now, also, when a person is mentally ill, how can you tell? Well, a person is possessed will have the ability of retrocognition and prognostication. So retrocognition is the ability to know your sins, and not because they can read your mind. Demons cannot read your mind. but because sins fall under what's called ordinary demonic activity. So through temptation, that's why the demons know your sin, because sins fall under ordinary demonic activity where they tempt you to sin, you fall into sin, therefore they know what the sin is. So that's why they know it. And that's why an exorcist will always go through the sacrament of reconciliation prior to performing an exorcism. The same thing, there's also a term called prognostication, which is the ability to know the future. And that's why during the rite, you silence the voice, because you do not want any type of retrocognition or prognostication occurring. You want that to stop. So, but can a person become, you're talking about a total integration, if you will, a complete integration when it comes to possession? Well, you have to look at it. There's the two terms, perfect possession, and then there is transient possession. So transient possession is when the person is under a constant stage of attack on a physical level, on an intellectual level. So their intellect and will are being attacked still, continuing. And it's a continuous process. It's not something that stops. However, the demonic can enter and leave at will, because the body is at such a difficult state as far as the intellect and will being pretty much at a weakened state. They can enter and leave whenever they wish. Annalise McKell, Emily Rose, that was transient possession. So there were many times Annalise was up, and she could play the piano. And then there were times that she would go into possession. So she was still her, but the demonic possesses the soul in her transient possession. So that can occur. And then, of course, perfect possession is when the person never has that release of that demonic possessing the body. And but really, they don't. It's not something that they just walk around and pretend to be, Miss Joe, Mr. Joe, or Mrs. Jane, or something of this nature. The purpose of possession is the desecration of the living temple of the Holy Spirit, the imago of Yahweh. So, to destroy the image of God, which we are created in, is the ultimate form of desecration. So their purpose is not to walk around and pretend to be regular Jane Doe or regular, Harry. Their purpose is to desecrate the body, because angels, demons in this case, do not have a body. And so they will never have a body as we do. We have a body and spirit. They do not, because we're created in God's image. They are not. And so to desecrate God's image, they desecrate the body. And that's the purpose of possession.
Well, so well said. And sometimes I have these conversations. You and I haven't had a conversation like this in a while.
Yeah,
Usually I'm
we
giving
have to have more.
I don't reach out to you. I've told you this also. I don't reach out to you as often as I should because I know you're one of the busiest people on the planet, and I know that you hate saying no. And
I will never say no to you. I will always make time. Seriously, no. That's
I know.
And as an abbot, you will. I know you will always make time for the Benedictines, and that's why you're going to be a phenomenal abbot, Shawn. And you're going to be an abbot that I can really be proud, because I love the Benedictine spirituality. I love our Benedictine community. And I'm going to be so proud. And I'm proud to say, Father Tommy is our abbot. But I'm going to be so proud to say that, Father Shawn is our abbot. And because you're a good man with a good heart, you have integrity. And that is something that you cannot train someone for. Either they have it or they don't. And the first time I saw you, I thought, you know what? This guy is a good guy. Regardless of, I don't care.
Make me cry.
Past. Well, yeah, but
I cry easy. You like to try to make me cry.
You do, but see, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, and I can tell when you're around, and you know this, when you're around, when you're in clergy, and you can be around, you can pick up pretty quickly on people that have nefarious intent versus people who are genuine. And when I first met you, I thought, this guy is a phenomenal priest. And that's all about discernment, and when you become an abbot, you will be able to say that person right there will be a phenomenal Benedictine.
Well, I'm at the time where I got to kick you out of here, but before I kick you out of here, I'll have you back, and when we come back, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about fake exorcists, because I just had somebody reach out to me the other day who the guy bought 2 copies of the rite. highlighted all the responses in one, mailed it to this family, and then he held exorcism live on Zoom with them and
Oh, for
charged them like $5,000. Um, so we'll talk about fake exorcists. I get people reach out to me all the time, teach me how to be an exorcist, and I just go, I don't want
yeah,
to be rude, but I don't do that
good for you.
because how do you answer that question? And then they get really mad. Oh, you Catholics think you have you have you guys are better than everybody else, and only Catholics can be exorcists and yada yada
Yeah.
yada. And I just kind of it doesn't bug me. I pray for them, and inside my heart is hurting because there's a lot of
Here's what I
people
always
out there.
here's what I always say. I say, have you read the rite? And they say, oh yes, 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 yes. I said, well then have you read the rubrics? Well, what are the rubrics? Okay, well if you read the rite, you know what the rubrics are. So it says in the rubrics, which are the rules of the rite, that if you're not a priest who's been given permission by their bishop to perform this rite, you have no business even reading it. Now people get mad when I say that. I didn't write it. This was in 1614 when it was first published. So I tell them that. So if they pull that little thing with you, say, look, the rubrics are very clear. The rules of the rite says this, and so that's just the way it goes. It is a shame that people do that. It is. It's such a shame.
Well, I love you. I respect you. I'll see you at night prayer
Yeah,
later, and have a wonderful, wonderful remainder of your Friday evening and your weekend. I pray for you every day that you don't have to suffer through migraines anymore. So hang in there. Have a great evening, and thank you so much for being here. And I'll have you back, but I'll be seeing you later.
sounds great. Thank you very much, and you have a good night, buddy.
God bless you, brother.
All right, bye bye.
Bishop James Long, Archbishop James Long, my bishop. Yeah, he almost made me cry there. He's good at that. Uh, 2 minutes left. I'm gonna try to get my joke in. Everybody loves. God, so many of you sent me in batches of jokes this past week. My guests next week. Oh, you're gonna Friday the 13th, and it's not what you expect. My guests next week, Barry and Connie Strom, the Stroms. They are world class spirit channels, and they channel. Just look them up. Barry and Connie Strom, old friends of mine. They'll be here. They'll probably do some channeling. It's going to be a special show. They're also critically acclaimed authors. Barry's written so many wonderful books. Check them out, Barry and Connie Strom. They'll be here next week. Um, Thank you to United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network for carrying my show, and thank you to Michelle DeRoche for making that all happen. God bless her for that. And thank you all for tuning in because without you guys, I don't have a show. So this is this week's joke. It's my poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face before I say goodnight. Two windmills, oh, this is from Bill B. in Arizona. Hi, Bill. Two windmills are standing on a wind farm. One asks, "What's your favorite type of music?" The other says, "I'm a big metal fan." Good night, Danny. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. Remember, we may have done what the devil said we did, but we are not who the devil says we are. If you want to be a sponsor on the show, reach out to me. God bless you all. Peace.